Alrighty, well, good afternoon and welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Andrew Doffney. I'm the Instruction and Outreach Librarian at the New Jersey State Library. And it is my pleasure to present my colleague for today, Cynthia Lambert, who is one of our law librarians in the law library here we have at the New Jersey State Library. And she's going to be talking about some of the legal databases that are available through the state library, how to use them and some of the resources that are available in them. Just a note, and Cynthia will cover this again, that the databases that we'll be covering today are only remotely accessible for New Jersey State employees or Thomas Edison State University staff and students through the state library's website. However, one of the databases, Legal Information Source, is available to all New Jersey residents and libraries through the JerseyClicks program. So that is something that she will be covering that does have statewide reach in terms of access. So. We will be taking your questions at the end of the program today, but if you have any time, please submit them at any time to us, and we'll be happy to address them. I will be uploading a copy of the slides that Cynthia is going to be using today to the chat so that you have the opportunity to download from there. If you do have any issues downloading them, they will be available in a follow-up email as well. As always with our programs, there is a survey available at the end. So if you have time, we ask you to please complete the survey. We really, truly appreciate any and all feedback that you give us. And then if you want more information about conducting legal research, you can visit our legal research page at the web address on the screen there. I will also send that out in the chat too once we get started so that you have a live link to that. And then one last thing I just want to go over is just a brief overview of the Zoom dashboard. This is what your dashboard should look like if you're using a PC or Mac. If you're using a mobile device, the dashboard may look a little bit different, but all the features will still be there. In the bottom left-hand corner, you can check your audio settings. So if you're using an external listening device like a headset or earbuds, you can check to make sure that they're connected properly there. At any point during the presentation, if you have issues, there is a raise hand button here in the middle. You can click on that. That'll alert me. I will send you a message in Zoom and hopefully be able to resolve any problems that you are having. And then, as I mentioned, if you do have questions, please use the Q&A or the chat buttons to get in touch with us. We'll be happy to address them at the end of the presentation. So that is everything that I have for you. So I'm going to turn it over to Cynthia now. You're still muted.
Hi, everyone. Give me 1 second. I'm going to share my screen with you here. Don't worry, it will not be an entirely PowerPoint presentation, I promise. I know that's really boring. So again, thank you, Andrew, for having me. And thank you, everyone, for taking time out of your busy day to spend time talking about legal research databases. It's not the most exciting of topics, so I'm really thrilled to have you here. As Andrew mentioned, I'm Cynthia Lambert, a law librarian here at the New Jersey State Library. I've been with the New Jersey State Library for about 7 years, and I have to tell you, this is my favorite job I have ever had. Every day I learn something new, and every day is something different. So it's never boring and really educational, both for me and just fantastic. So if I get a little overexcited about these things that I'm about to share with you, that explains why. I'm just really, really, really excited about the amount of information that we provide to people to help them navigate the legal system. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about the research library in general. That's very brief, and then we'll jump right into the databases. The number one thing that we'll cover is how to find them. It's not always easy. And then the 4 that I'll be covering is the legal information source. Some people may know this. It used to be called legal reference information as well. That's an EBSCO database, and that's the one that Andrew was talking about. It is available to everyone in New Jersey via the JerseyClicks program. So I will show that to you as well as we get there. Then I'm going to cover the National Consumer Law Center database. This is a terrific database that focuses on consumer law. I included this one in my list because I think it's an underutilized database. It's a database that actually provides really great information for both legal professionals and regular people. So I think that's good. And there is some support and some information that you can get outside of the library on their website. So that's one of the reasons why I chose that one. Then my personal favorite database that we have is HeinOnline. I'll talk about that. And then VitalLaw, which is also known as Walter Kluwer's, I will also talk about. That's probably the most wonkiest of the databases. And then we'll have time for Q&A at the end. So let's jump right in now. Hang on here. All right. So the research library, New Jersey State Library has a bunch of different divisions. One is the Talking Book and Braille Center. One part is lifelong learning, things like that. But the research library, which you'll hear a lot of me using that term, consists of our general reference library, which is located on the 4th floor, and the law library, which is located here on the 3rd floor, and our circulation department. So this is what I call the retail library, or working library is the is the research library. In general reference, we have 11 librarians. They specialize in New Jersey, and I'm not kidding, really, everything New Jersey. And again, they're as excited about their job as I am about mine. So if you want to talk about anything New Jersey, these are the people to speak to. This slide is mainly here so you know how to get in touch with them and how to get in touch with us in the law library. In the law library, there are 5 librarians. We specialize in New Jersey law. We do provide federal information and support for your research, but our specialization is New Jersey. And New Jersey history, the history of New Jersey laws, things like that. We are your go-to spot for that. And here is our contact information as well. As Andrew said, he will be sending out these slides, so you'll have this information. Okay, so to start off with, as I said, I'm going to talk about where to find them. It truly is not easy to do. So that's why I've given you this QR code and this link here at the bottom. And I'm also going to point out that at this point, we are not going to be covering, like, this is not a deep dive in-depth tutorial. If you're interested in getting one-on-one assistance with learning how to use a database, you should send an email to us if it's a legal database, if it's one of our other databases. And I do encourage you to look at the non-legal database information we have as well. You would send the request up to the ref desk up on the 4th floor, but we can set up an appointment where you can come in and a librarian and we'll sit down with you and work with you on a database to give you some, more of a tutorial. Today, we're going to be talking about these databases just to let you know what they are, what they have available to them, and how they might help you. So I want you to know that. The other question that I have been getting a whole lot since this went up saying that we were going to do this is, why aren't you talking about Lexis and Westlaw? Lexis and Westlaw are both available to the public in the library. You have to be on site. These are rock stars of legal research. They are incredibly powerful databases. We are so privileged to be able to offer both of them to the public. However, they are so expensive that they are not made available to anyone outside of the library. And for that reason, I didn't feel like it was worth taking the time to talk about something that you absolutely positively had to come into the library for. Not to mention, these are probably our most broad and specific legal databases all at the same time. So they take a little bit more time to learn about. So I am going to stop sharing the slideshow with you now, and we're going to pretend that we're using this QR code to go to that webpage. So give me a second and I will share my screen now with you so that you'll be able to see. Okay. Where we go in this case. Okay, so this is, we are now at the library's homepage. We'll come back to this. There are a million different ways to get to and find databases. The QR code that I've given you and the link are both to take you specifically to the legal research databases. I will show you how to get to the complete database list a little bit later on, and it'll also give you an idea of other ways that you can get there. But when you click on the QR code, it will take you to this page, A to Z Databases Law. It is pretty self-explanatory, gives you an alphabetical listing of all of our legal databases. So as you can see, we have 45 databases here listed as law and law-related databases. I'm only introducing you to 4 of these today. So as you can see, this is a teaser for you to help you to examine these more in depth on your own, as well as come on into the library. We can talk about these and all of the great databases that we have, legal or not legal. There's just fantastic resources. So I'm going to slide down to L, because the first database that we are going to be looking at is Legal Information Source. Okay, you'll notice these little symbols will tell you a little bit more about the database. The little dome, that means it's available to state workers remotely. The little, I think this might be a clock, I'm not sure. If you hover over that, it's remote access for TESU staff and students. And then you'll see in this database right here where it says this database is also available via JerseyClicks. JerseyClicks is a program that the state library runs that makes a lot of databases, not just this database, but many, many databases available statewide. These are great, and it means that your local library has access to all of these databases, and those librarians are warriors on the front lines of information. They will have access to these databases, including this database, the legal database, the legal information source database, I should say. And that database, if you slide down here to JerseyClicks, you'll see all of the various ones that are available, and you can access this. So no matter who you are, where you're from, if you're in New Jersey, you can access legal information source. And so that's right here. And so this is the legal information source database interface. This is what you'll see when you log in. What I like about this database, my favorite thing about this database actually, is that it is not written for lawyers or law professionals at all. This is a database that is designed to help regular people, if you will, not that lawyers aren't regular, but anyway, to help non-legal professionals understand things about the law. It has got some really great titles, as you can see that in their featured content right away. It really gives you an idea of the types of things that are available in this database. What I always say is this database is fantastic for information at the federal level, because things like immigration, Social Security, taxes, these are largely at the federal level, and this is terrific. What this database falls short on, in my opinion, is state specific. So what I use this database for is getting an overview on legal topics, as you like, for example, Airbnb hosts tax guide. You're going to get a lot of information about Airbnb and taxation at the federal level, but you're also going to learn a lot of keywords for opening up your search when you begin to try to drill down and get more specific to your situation, looking at New Jersey laws and working with a database like Lexis or West, things like that. Having a good, solid overview will give you a number of terms that will really help you to craft your search when you get to the more specific databases. If you wanted to look at one of these books, I'll take a look at Social Security, Medicare, and government pensions. You just simply click on the title and it opens up. It gives you your table of contents, all of the chapters that have to do with it. And I really want you to pay attention to the upper right-hand corner over here. This allows you to do a number of different things. First of all, if you were writing a paper or doing something and you were going to quote things, you can just click here and it gives you a site for what you're looking at. You can use whichever type of citation that you use. This is APA, is what we in the library profession tend to use. And there you go. Here's your automatically properly formatted citation there. So that's a really handy thing. You can add what you're looking at to a folder, and eventually you can email that folder to yourself, or you can download and print. You can download PDFs and save them to your file, or save them to your computer. It's really, really helpful and easy to get this information out of this database onto your computer so that you can take it with you and look at it and utilize it in any way that you want to have it. And of course, there's the normal printing. You can search, which is not fully functioning now, so ignore that. And the related items is this little book. And if you want to, you can listen to all of these that have a reader attached to them. So if you had headphones in, you could click on this and it will read whatever is on the page for you. That's really, really helpful. So keep that in mind. I'm now going to go back to the original interface here. Underneath the sort of featured content, you'll see a lot of topics. And these topics, again, are that's really what this is about, is getting an overview of topics. And these are real world idea, things to think about. Wills and estate planning. We get so many questions about wills and estate planning, and this is a great resource for if you're getting ready to make a will, if you find that you're, a party in a will. There's a number of things to make sure that you understand how wills work and what it means. And again, this is not state specific, but there is a lot of really good information for you to find there. One area that I really want to talk about here are the NOLO legal guides. NOLO is a legal publisher that is very well known, very well respected, and has been around for years and years and years. They, as I said, write books and articles and information in a very accessible way for non-lawyers. So here, one of the handiest portions of this is that the guides are broken down by year. And I point that out because some things have begun changing like really, really rapidly. That's going to matter. So for example, if you're US immigration, okay, it is a 2025 book that we have here. That's great. But keep in mind, 2025 books were actually probably written in 2024. So these are the kinds of things that you need to keep in mind when looking at legal information. How old is it? Doesn't mean it's not valid. It just means you need to pay attention. If you go back to all the, to home, it brings you back to our home page here. I'm going to show you also NOLO legal guides in 2024. You'll notice that there's a lot more of them because the year has passed. 2025 will continue to be populated as time passes. You have a number of, if you live in California, this database is fantastic because California has made a number of things available and they are state specific. So that's handy. But you have a primer on Chapter 13 bankruptcy, incredibly important. Bankruptcy is so fraught with emotion and so complex. Having something that you can read through and understand the basics will make you a better consumer with your lawyer. You'll have more intelligent questions to ask, and you'll have a head start in understanding some of the things. That's really helpful when you're going through any kind of legal situation. Every landlord's legal guide. Landlords, it's important to know the federal situation because federal absolutely impacts the state. Yeah, and the federal is the minimum, the state can add more layers to it. So every landlord's legal guide, again, if you're thinking about renting one of your places, it's not a bad idea to take a look at this and what it means to be a landlord. How to get a green card. Now, this is a 2024 book. I would read through this or look at it, but I would probably go to the federal government's actual websites to determine if the information in this is still in place because things are changing so quickly. But one of the things I really like, and I think is a really terrific resource, is this book called Legal Research. This is why here in the library, I often send people to this database, specifically this one. You'll notice that when I pull it up, it doesn't come up in chapter order. That doesn't matter. If I click on access the PDF now, it automatically pulls up your related items, and I'm going to go straight to chapter 1, okay, with it. And then you can look, what is law, sources, But in chapter 2, you really get to the nitty-gritty of how to locate legal information. Okay, and that is one of the hardest things to do. It's never an easy answer. A lot of times we get the phone call, what's the law that says blah, blah, blah? Rarely is there one. There's usually a suite of laws around a topic, and it's never, there's specific situations, things like that. So finding legal information, understanding how to find it, understanding the difference between primary sources and secondary sources, what you're looking at, this is invaluable. If you are going to represent yourself, understanding how to do legal research is, again, invaluable. This is a great place to start. You'll be a better researcher for it. Okay. Now I'm going to go back again to the home page here. One of the things I will mention about this database, and you'll see that they often tout that they provide forms. There's all kinds of, it'll mention forms, and indeed, there's a legal forms by US state section here. Legal forms in New Jersey are few and far between. The New Jersey judiciary, for example, many states have what's known as the divorce packet. You go, you pick it up, it's all before it's a step-by-step guide to getting a divorce in that state. New Jersey does not have that. New Jersey's judiciary believes that every legal situation is unique, and therefore cookie cutter ways of doing things won't necessarily fit everything. And so we have forms. There are forms out there. There's more since the pandemic times, but we don't necessarily have as many. And also legal forms change. Whether or not you find a legal form on this database or any other database that you may come upon, including West and Lexis, you are going to want to check that that is still the valid form for using in the court where you will be going. It's incredibly important, and filling out the wrong form can mean the difference between your case being accepted and heard or being dismissed for on a technicality. So forms, it's great that they have this, and for New Jersey, quite frankly, all it does is it takes you to the New Jersey court website, which is great. That's a great source for New Jersey court forms. Okay, it also takes you to the Federal District Court of New Jersey or the Bankruptcy Court of New Jersey. These are good places to go to get legal forms. Okay, you do not want to, like I said, be using a database for legal forms. It's just not, it's not the best way to go. Okay, examples, templates, much better way to go, that you then customize for specifically what you're doing in New Jersey courts based on the New Jersey court rules. All right, so I think that's a really good overview so far for you on information on the legal information source. As I said, this is sort of the beginner's guide to doing legal research and legal topics. It's a fantastic resource, but we get a little bit better as we move up our list, okay? The next database that I'm going to talk about here is going to be, well, one last thing. NOLO also does have their own website. They have cover topics on their website, and they have an encyclopedia also that's available for free on their website. Having an encyclopedia can be a handy thing. And again, this is something you can just go to their website and find this after hours with or without a library card, whether you're, in space or you're in Pennsylvania or New Jersey or anywhere else in between, you can access the website. So I think that that's another resource that makes this very nice. Okay. Our next database is also one that I really like a lot. This is the NCLC Digital Library. NCLC is the National Consumer Law Center, okay? It is a nonprofit organization that began in 1969 and is dedicated to helping consumers. Everything in this database relates to consumer law. Much of consumer law begins at the federal level, and much of what you will find on this database will be at the federal level. However, they do have a lot of state-specific information in their appendices. So once I get to, and I will show you that. The other good thing about NCLC is that this database is actually designed for both non-legal professionals and legal professionals. The language is a little bit more legalese than our last database. However, they do strive to make the information that they are putting out here accessible to non-legal professionals. That said, there are all kinds of information on litigation. There are companion materials that include pleadings, discovery, appellate opinions, so a lot of really specific legal things, but it also, like I said, has a great deal of information that's really good to consumers. The other thing I like about this database is that it's fairly easy to use, except for it's got a few weird things. So for example, if I decide I want to look at information on repossessions, and again, this is what I mean by this is practical, real information. Real people have their cars or items repossessed, and this discusses in depth what their rights are, what can be done, what can't be done. One chapter that I use on a regular basis for people is chapter 7, which is when someone's car, say, is repossessed, any of their personal property that was inside the car, for example, an infant car seat, is not actually part of the repossession process. That is their property, and it does need to be returned to them. Chapter 7 goes through exactly the steps that you should take in this process to get your items back. And it makes it very clear that no one should charge you money for giving you back those items. That's not how it works. The person who repossessed or the organization that repossessed the vehicle has got to return those items without charging you. It goes in depth into this, nothing, by the way, nothing I'm saying is legal advice. Please keep that in mind. I know all the librarians online will understand what I'm saying. We at the library provide you with resources, help with using those resources, but we cannot provide anything that can even remotely be considered legal advice. So keep that in mind. Anything that I'm saying here, I'm just pointing out. I've read about all of the ways you can go about getting unsecured personal property back in this chapter, and I'm paraphrasing some of that when I talk about that today. So one of the great things about this is, as I said, though, so now we're talking about at the federal level, what goes on with repossessions and things. And then in the appendices, you'll see that there are a summary of state repossession laws, okay? And then you have all of your states here. So if we were to look at New Jersey, it gives you literally a listing, of what New Jersey has. And as you scroll through, you can do this. This information also is very handy for those who, not necessarily for someone who's got their, in the situation of repossession, but if you are studying repossession laws and you're trying to find out what everyone in all 50 states are doing, this is a great place to start your 50-state surveys, okay? It really gives you a lot of information on a lot of consumer law topics. So that's something that's very specific to a lot of different professionals, and 50-state surveys are so hard to do. They are so time-consuming. Anything that helps you shorten that process or at least give you a better guide for getting started is a welcome thing. So many of the articles and books that NCLC provides has this type of information in the appendices. And again, you can download this to a PDF very quickly. Okay, so that's an important thing to do. I do not know why currently we cannot email from our NCLC database. That is something I will look into. And if you have a question about that, please get in touch post presentation here, and I'll find out I'll let you know what I find out when I ask. I just noticed that today as I was prepping for this, so keep that in mind. Here's one of the weirdest things about NCLC. There is no home button. You always want to press My NCLC. I don't know why. If you click on like digital library, or sometimes the word home shows up here, that takes you to a completely different place outside the paid database. So you always want to use My NCLC. My NCLC gives you access to what our subscription covers. Okay. Other really important things about this database are that it's updated continuously. Literally every single day, more updates happen. Here is an example. April 1st increase of federal bankruptcy exemptions, other dollar amounts. An article on that. Updated chapters and appendices, and recent updates to digital editions of their books. So this is a fantastic resource. A lot of libraries have in print a number of NCLC publications. This is where you can find out if there's been updates to those as well, which is really, really handy for you. As I said, this is consumer litigation specific. This is very, very detailed in what is available. So for example, the fair credit reporting, we'll go into that. Extremely complex information, okay? Each book that you have will have its appendices, it'll have its index, it gives you summaries of each of the chapters. And then there's this section here, companion materials. You click on companion materials, and it takes you to a searchable database of a variety of things. So you can get court decisions on this topic. You can get practice tools, being here's how to do X, Y, Z. Pleadings and discovery information, so there is a great deal of information that's available here. You can search for a topic here, or you can use the filters, the entirely, the filters that are here over on the left. But my point being is it's exceedingly easy to find a lot of information on any given topic and really drill down. So I like that about this, that it is so easy to use. Here you'll see that there's a home. Don't press the home button. Go back to My NCLC. If you press the home button, it's not a big deal. You'll immediately realize I don't know where I am, and just hit My NCLC. But it's just one of those little things that bugs me as a librarian. Don't have two competing things. So anyway, so that pretty much sums up NCLC. On their website, they also have, which is available at any given time, they also have a lot of information, and you'll see this free at NCLC. And this is a handy thing of information like surviving debt that is truly informational and designed to help consumers understand how to find their way out of a debt situation. Student loan toolkit, very helpful. From what I understand, it's being updated as well recently, although this is from 2024, so it's fairly updated. But you'll see that it really lays out a lot, how to use the toolkit, but also, do you have federal loans, private loans, or both? That is such a difficult question to answer, and this will teach the student and or the parents how to understand what the loan situation is and how all of this works. So the free articles from NCLC, which you can get through our database, but you can get most of these also on the website for free. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about this database, is that NCLC, the company, is dedicated to making a lot of information available, even outside the subscription service. So absolutely keep that in mind when you're home. If you do not have access to this, or if you're working in a library and you don't have access to this, and those of you who do work in libraries, if you find something that you would like access to, we can send you information. Obviously, this is copyrighted information. All of that applies, but we will send you a chapter if you feel that there's a chapter that would be interesting to you. Just send us an email, again, using that information. So, all right. Moving right along, I'm going to go to our next database now, which is my personal favorite. I love this database so much. It's just so cool. This is HeinOnline, is the name of the database. This database, its biggest problem, if you will, is that it's so enormous. There are over 1,600 law reviews that you can access on here. There are an entire library of federal legislative histories. If you know anything about the New Jersey State Library and our law department, what you probably know us for is that we create legislative histories for every piece of legislation that's passed. So every law, that comes into play every year in New Jersey. They're in depth, people love them. People also are often looking for federal legislative histories, which is not something that we do there, but Hein grabs these from a lot of different sources and will tell you about that, tell you where the source comes from. And it's really great. It's the only place I know of that you can get this kind of information. The reason this is my favorite database is one of my favorite things to do is to hunt down unicorns from the past. So, for example, what's been the voting rights in New Jersey all about, things like that. Hein is where you want to go for this because Hein is all about finding historic content. It is incredibly powerful database, and so you can hunt things down. For example, in New Jersey in 1937, all of the statutes were revised and codified in a new sort of modern way. That is like a flashpoint before and like things that came before and things that came after that. These books are old, they're huge, they're great. It's a great resource, and it's available entirely digitally on through Hein. And that is such an enormous boon for doing research back in the day. It also has colonial and pre-colonial information. So I will give you a little bit of a tour of this homepage as well. The Law Journal Library, one of the main reasons I point people to the Law Journal Library is because using Law Journal stories on your topic in the footnotes will give you an enormous amount of case law information and other research on the same topic that's very easily found, and they're invaluable for finding keywords. Again, if you're looking for, it's one thing to say, I'm looking for a case that's, a bankruptcy case in federal court, and it's another to actually have read up and understand some nuances and put keywords that will really help you to find cases that actually are much more like your case using that. So anytime something can provide you with good keywords, it's one of the reasons I love the first database that I presented, is learning about the topic and having an overview is going to give you intelligent keywords to use when you're moving up the chain of, more and more difficult to use and more scholarly databases. So anything that provides good keywords or additional resources is aces in my books. So love the Law Journal Library for that reason. Okay, and one of the great things about the Law Journal Library also is we're not talking just, law journals from this year or things like that. You've got things like the Harvard Law Review and Yale's law journals that go back to the beginning of their runs. So when they have a database, when the law journal is here, generally they have the complete run of it. Generally, there are very few that are embargoed. Also, you will be able to get the most recent issues. A note about Bar Association journals in New Jersey. The New Jersey Bar Association will not provide their journals to anyone who is not a member of the New Jersey Bar Association. Institutions, like a library cannot be. So we do not have access to the New Jersey Law Journal, New Jersey Bar Association law journals. And that's something that everybody's always surprised about. That is through no fault of ours. Also underneath here, you'll see that they have a list of all of their what they call databases. These are subsets of their database, okay? During the pandemic, the COVID-19 database was invaluable. They tracked all the executive orders and all the different things that were coming out rapid fire like crazy, and it was incredibly helpful for that. But what I like is that, again, if you have a topic that you're going to be working on, for example, water rights rights and resources. In New Jersey, water rights are huge. This is a big part of who we are. And you can go to the LibGuide here and it will tell you all the different, like it's an overview of this resource. It tells you about it. It tells you who at Hein created it and who will also, is the support person for this specific database. That's enormous. They get really, really helpful. Generally, I have seen turnaround when questions are asked for them within 24 hours. So that's pretty good. Riparian rights, this is from this resource guide from Pace Law Library explains riparian rights as they exist in New York, Colorado, and California. Important information there for us, so there's a lot of information within this, introduction to water law. These are important things to learn about a topic or to dive deep into the topic. So that's something that you might want to keep in mind. Let me go back here now to show you. There are a number of databases that are about things like the Pentagon Papers, or legal classics. These are a bunch of titles that are considered legal classics by HeinOnline that they have made entirely available online here. And these are again classics from back in the day up to more modern classics as well. Great places to pick up some information from. I'm sorry, I didn't need to go to that place. That's where we need to be. There are also, things on national defense and things on presidential impeachment, presidential libraries, all the federal statutes at large. It's very helpful to have those there. Topics that are important in today's world, immigration rights. There's things on criminal justice just in general, early American case law. These things are fantastic. My favorite use of this database is again under the state content. And as I said, you can see unbelievable stuff. So I'm going to start with the state statutes, a historical archive. I'm going to do this by state because I'm interested in New Jersey. There's 40 items here, which doesn't seem like a lot, but this is essentially New Jersey law from 1717 up until the 1970s being the most recent that you have here. And this is the historic archive. You can also find all of our current laws under the statutes as well in a different section. But I just wanted to point this out that these are just incredible acts of the General Assembly of the province of New Jersey. So this is a database of laws before we were a state, back when we didn't have S's, evidently, and it's the General Assembly of New Jersey. That's my fake joke. I always say it's the pursuit of happiness, but that's how old these are. Handily enough, though, Hein in the background has put everything to regular English that we use now. So you do not have to type AFFEMBLY. You can type the word assembly and it will pick it up every time, even if it's using F's instead of S's. So that's a very handy thing. The other really important state content that they have is a session law library. And if you go to the state session laws, okay, you will see that you can search, simply by putting in your state, your year. I have no idea what this is going to turn up, but I'm going to do chapter law 15, session law chapter 15 from 1971. And it pulls it up and takes you directly to that specific one. This is an act concerning salaries of the mayor and members of council of municipalities in certain cases, and supplementing chapter 46 of Title 40 of the revised statutes. So there you go. A little bit of a boring one, but you can get to any session law really easily. But even more importantly than that is if you choose by state, and you click on it, You can search this title. So i.e. you can search across all of the session laws. And again, the session laws are going back to the 1700s. So that's enormous. You can search all of the session laws in one fell swoop. So you can put, voting in here, search, and it will bring up anything with the word voting over the course of all those years. Obviously, there's 2,997 results. That is an enormous amount of information. But again, this is a great way to begin if you want to try to see a topic going across time throughout history of New Jersey. So this database, I could talk about this database, quite frankly, for hours on end because I love it so much. There's so many great things here. There's so many, the slavery in America. If you were a teacher, this database would be fantastic for you. Now there's a number of different things. And again, it's so powerful. I could talk about it for hours, but I do want to move on to our final database today and then field your questions. This database is our wonkiest, as I said. It is this is called VitalLaw, or VitalLaw, excuse me. It used to be called Walter Kluwer's. Every time I say the name VitalLaw, all I can think of is I Love Lucy when she was doing the Vitamita Vegemin ad. And so if I snicker every once in a while when I say that, you'll now understand why. This database focuses on very specific areas. And for all of you who are state employees, this is a database that you may not be aware of, but it's really, really a smart database. It covers human resources and labor and employment law. This is incredibly important stuff. There's also a litigation module that is different, but I'm going to focus on these other two. This database is all about, so if we click on human resources, for example, and you come into the section for human resources, you can either just keyword search in here, but you also can see that there is a number of things. For example, compliance. Are you complying with various federal laws? These are checklists to help you figure that out. Current issues and answers as things change. State employment law tracker. This section tracks new and revising, news and new laws and amended laws across the states. So, and it gives you, you can go back in time as well here. So today, Kentucky was one of the, things that something has changed. As I said, as with a number of these databases, they are not necessarily state specific, but this has state information as well as federal information in it, this database, okay? It has a great deal of information on topics that matter. So, immigration law in the workplace, defending a DOL or ICE worker visa audit. That will be, you will have information in here, and it gives you that. This information can easily be printed, emailed, or downloaded to yourself, or anyone else that may be interested in it. So it's incredibly handy in that regard. And so you can get this information and get it to yourself really, really quickly. The home button on this database does work also. So you will see also something called Smart Charts answer books in this section here. If you go to Smart Charts, and they have ones here, but you can build your own smart charts as well. I'm going to use one of the pre-built ones here. So we're going to look at sexual harassment laws. I want to compare the sexual harassment laws in New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, and Utah. And then you click on it, it brings up and it tells you applicable laws and regulations, and there's my 4 states. Prohibited practices, and again, there's my what's prohibited in which state that we're doing, who's the enforcement agency is listed here. So it gives you, again, they call these smart charts because you can display it in other ways as well, for how it looks for you, highlight updates, if you're looking at these things over and over again. You can see if there's been any changes to anything within the last 10 days. I didn't think there probably would be, but we'll say within 120 days. No, it doesn't seem to be anything with this topic as well, but it will highlight if there has been any changes for you. That is huge when you're trying to figure out what's happening, now with these types of things. If we again go back to practical law, you will see things on human rights, personal privacy, worker rights in this database. Over on the right-hand side, they write a number of white papers and special reports on topics that are happening right now in this area. So, or that are of interest. I find things like this. We get a lot of questions about copyright, very, very difficult to answer. I know when I was a public librarian, I also got a lot of questions on copyright. These are invaluable to helping people understand copyright and what has to be done. And this one is about AI generated material. So, brand new topic for both the, patent and copyright offices. And so this is, on topic immediate. As I said, these are very much so hot topics, if you will, very of the moment. Okay. For librarians, you also get a lot of support on how to catalog all of these things. So that's a plus here. I'll to be honest too, I am not a cataloger or a tech services librarian, so I don't know how great that is, but I do like that it's right there and I can take a look at it if I need to. Okay. Checklists are also enormously helpful. So employment law form checklist library, that should be examined in a workplace investigation. So, this is powerful if you're an employee, which we all are. If you're an employer, which many of us are, then these can really help you to understand the laws. So I see we're coming up towards the end. I'm going to stop sharing this portion of our thing. I'll put up my slides again. Let me come over here. I'll share the slides. Share that one. And I will bring it down to, see, there's my picture of Lucy because VitalLaw just makes me think of that. And here we go. And I'm happy to take any questions or comments that you may have.
All right, thank you so much, Cynthia. If anybody does have questions, please feel free to send them our way in the chat or the Q&A, and we'll be happy to address them. I don't know if you can answer this one, but somebody said, why is it so hard to find a lawyer in this state?
It is very hard. It can be very difficult to find one. I've actually just recently written a blog post about how to go about finding a lawyer in New Jersey. And so I would direct you to that. It can be difficult to find an attorney for a number of reasons, but there are resources. There's a lot of resources. One of the biggest challenges, of course, to finding an attorney is finding an attorney you can afford, and that I really can't help with much, but there are again some resources even regarding that. So definitely take a look at that. And despite the fact that I think New Jersey, I heard a statistic, I think there's one lawyer for every like 86 citizens in New Jersey, which seems like an incredibly high number. We are actually, there is what's considered, or at least by the Bar Association, a lawyer shortage in New Jersey. And in fact, there's a number of people who consider there to be a lawyer shortage in the United States. I don't know whether that's true or not, but
Um, is NCLC the best resource to consult when selling your car to a person through a private transaction, or the proper actions to take when notified of a data breach and exposure of your personal information?
it would be great for the second, the data breach. They actually have an entire section on on data breaches. If you're, private, your privacy information, things you can do. So I think it's fantastic for that. As far as selling your car goes, I would probably more consult with New Jersey's DMV about, what has to be done, because there's going to be specific laws in New Jersey about selling your car and transferring the title and things like that that are specific to New Jersey, but it probably does give you some information on, selling a car. There's certainly a great deal of information on dealerships selling cars and the lemon laws and, fraud and things like that at the top level. But I'm going to assume that everyone is going to be selling their car and completely honest about the history of their car.
Um, as a lawyer, what is the best way to gain physical access to the law library for research?
Oh, you can come in. We're open from 10 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Monday through Friday, and you can just walk in. If you need to come in earlier, we can accommodate that. Andrew, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I believe you can just come in and go upstairs to the fourth floor. You don't have to have an appointment. We in the law department do ask that you let us know that you're coming in so someone can be out on the floor and set up and ready to help you as well.
Yeah, if you're coming between the hours of 8:30 and 10 in the morning, you do need to set up an appointment, regardless if it's for the law library or for
Oh,
reference,
okay.
which is
I
what I
wasn't sure
understand.
if you guys
Yeah.
needed, yeah, so you do need to set up an appointment to come in to do research earlier, but we will do that for you. Yeah. The other thing is that during COVID, we got really very, very good at handling remote questions, i.e. send us an email, okay? And we can help you with a lot of stuff without you coming to the library. Not that we don't want to see your smiling faces. I actually miss having as many people as we used to have coming into the library, because there's definitely something, that you get from in-person interactions. However, you may not have to come to the library to access a number of our resources. So for example, if you are interested in a particular case, you have a case name and citation that you got from Google Scholar or reading something, and you would like the editorial content that either Lexis or Westlaw provides, if you send us an email and give us your case citation, we'll email that information out to you so you don't have to come into the library. If you have a law that, like, say you get a parking ticket or a motor vehicle ticket, okay, and it'll have a citation on it, and you want, again, more information on that crime that you've been charged with, you send us that citation and we will send you information on that specific citation out via email. So call us, email us, or come visit us. If you're far away, I highly recommend call or email first, only because we can save you a trip. A lot of times I've had people come down from, say, New York, actually, and they're looking for something, and I'm like, oh, next time, you can just send us an email. We can send this out to you. And they're like, oh my gosh. Yeah, so you can access us in any number of ways. But please come visit when you can.
Given so many federal databases are no longer being updated due to various cost-cutting initiatives, how reliable is the info on them?
We do not know right now. This is all unfolding. It's right now, we're all trying to keep track of these kinds of things. Like I can't give a blatant and, blanket answer for that. Check and see, unfortunately, yeah, there's definitely some information that's just been completely removed that we can't find any longer. It is difficult. The code will always be in place and updated, i.e. the US code, and the regulations will likely be kept up to date, because there's legislative mandates for how they have to be kept up to date. Uh, I, yes, unfortunately, I wish I had more of an answer for that. I really do, but I at the moment, I just do not.
Is HeinOnline accessible at our local public library or only by contacting the state library?
I think that there are a few public libraries that have Hein. I'm not 100% sure about that, but there may be a few public libraries that have it. We do definitely, you can contact us, we can get in touch, we can send you information from that. That's the kind of database that I highly recommend. You come in and absolutely spend a little time with it and understand it, so that when you do need information, if you're not going to come in, you have a better idea of what you can ask for and what you can't ask for. I can't send you, and keep in mind with all of these databases, this is copyright protected information. So if someone calls me and says, I would like all of Title 18A from Lexis, no, we can't do that. That's not right. If you have a citation or 3 citations, 4 citations, I don't have a specific number for you from 18A that you're interested in, I'd be happy to send those to you, but I can't give you all. Whenever the word all comes up, librarians go, and yeah, all is too extreme a qualifier.
I work with incarcerated youth in the state, and I'm looking for resources to reference JJC, YJC youth for access to legal resources. Do you have any suggestions?
I'm not familiar with JJC or
Juvenile Justice
oh,
Commission.
juvenile justice. Okay.
And
You really have to think about that. I mean, I just the regular information that we have that's available is important. Law is law is law, but I actually would have to think about that. Andrew, if you can get that person's contact information, and maybe I can do a reference interview and get a better idea of what types of things that they're looking for, and I could help them out with that. I'd be happy to help them out with that, but off the
sure,
top of my mind, I don't know.
sure.
Mhm.
What is the law for destruction of court documents?
We do not answer what is the law. That is legal advice. That would be advising you that this law is that, destruction of documents. It depends on the document. It depends on the legal situation that document is currently involved in, that said, if you have your divorce decree, which is a legal document, and your ex has been dead for 40 years and you're have no interest in keeping this any longer, no one's going to care if you destroy that legal document. So that's what I mean. It depends on the document. The answer to almost any question of what is the law is responded to with depends. And I'm sorry, I know that's an incredibly frustrating answer.
Do any of the online tools include the New Jersey Lawyer's Diary?
No, I do not know of anywhere where that is online. That said, we have it here in print. If there's something out of it that you need, we can photocopy a few pages for you, send them over, or have it. And we have the New Jersey Lawyer's Diary, by the way, also going back in time. So if you're interested, I've had a couple of people who were interested in, their grandparent or someone was an attorney back in such and such a day, and they were interested in finding out a little bit more about that. That was a good place for them to start. So we do have them back in time, but I do not know of a digital copy of that. That's the type of thing that, the publisher compiles and makes their money from selling that in print copies.
Um, Give it a couple more minutes, see if any other questions come in. But anything else you want to highlight or close with?
Just that I really do hope if you have the opportunity to come in and check out our library, and now I'm not talking just the law library. The law library is incredible. It's a very unique resource here in the state. I only know of 2 other law libraries that are open to the public, and they're much more restricted than we are, and that's Newark's Law Library, Records, Newark Law Library, and Camden, Records Camden Law Library. But so it's incredible. It's an incredible resource, but the entire New Jersey State Library is an incredible resource. On the 4th floor, and again, please do spend some time looking at all of our database. options and offerings because they are simply amazing. We also have resource guides created by librarians. The legal resource guide you'll see covers, self-help, again, finding a lawyer, things like that are in there, as well as, a detailed description of how to search the statutes in New Jersey using the free site on, on the New Jersey Legislature's webpage. So there's incredible things, but upstairs, I have to say, there's just the coolest materials. There's maps, there's genealogical information, there's, papers and information on every corner of this state, every town, and prominent citizens, and it is just a wealth of information. It is really fun. It's really exciting to see this. I'm a library geek, so I say, please come visit us. This is an amazing resource that's available to all of us. Not every state has a state library that actually has a working library that you can walk into. They usually all have a state librarian, or they'll have a state library that's only available to, say, the legislature or the governor's office or something like that. But we have one that's available to everyone in the state. I mean, literally, if you're physically here in the state too, you don't have to be from New Jersey. You can come in and see use our library, use all of our great resources, learn so much. It is incredible. It's an incredible resource that I feel personally is under-acknowledged and underutilized.
Do you receive the New Jersey Law Journal?
Yes, we did. It is no longer in print. This is a huge problem. The New Jersey Law Journal, for those of you who don't know, was the paper of record for years for the New Jersey legal community. There's a lot of public notices that have to be put out and things like that. They ended their print run in December of 2024. We have the entire print run here from the beginning of time to December of 2024. We have access to that publication currently via our Lexis subscription. However, I've heard that that may be ending. We're unsure. The entire legal profession is talking about this as to where can we, for example, when somebody wants to know what a court rule was back in the 1970s, we often go to that newspaper to pull that information, and we're unsure of where that record, because it is the paper of record, is going to be. So it's in flux right now. There is no product that is available to us that would allow us to make it available to patrons, other than having them use our, sorry about that, the reference desk must be fed at all times. We don't know where that sort of repository of information going back in time is going, and there is no product that makes this available. Like, a library can't buy a product for this newspaper that would allow us to make it available to our patrons. It's a one user, like one subscription, one user situation. So we would never be able to make it available any longer. If there's an article that you want from it, we can pull that and send it to you. But unfortunately, again, this is in flux, not unlike the loss of the print run of the Star Ledger. That is huge also in legal field, in that public notices need to be put in a print, in a newspaper, and now there isn't a statewide New Jersey newspaper in print. So again, this is all in flux. What's going to happen? Will online, no notification be okay? We're just not sure yet.
Is family law difficult to understand?
I think all law is difficult to understand, in part because it's really high stakes. So family law can be very hard to understand. We have some really great resources to help you to understand family law. Outside the library, there is an incredible resource called lsnj.org. They have information on family law. They have information on housing and tenants' rights. There's a lot of legal topics that they give you information on, and that's a great place to start. Family law in New Jersey it is further complicated, like I said, because New Jersey does not have a lot of templates and things like that. For example, in New Jersey, divorce does not cover child custody. They're two separate legal issues. Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that, and that is why if you're divorcing and you have children, representing yourself is a much bigger question.
Similar to this, where would one research New Jersey familial law regarding adult children's responsibility to their aging parents?
We have an entire section here on elder law. Yeah, I guess that is a topic that there are books and a bunch of different things. There may be some online resources that would be really good in elder law. LSNJ is a good place to start. I would have to do a little bit more research to see what I could find on elder care law that might be online, and freely available. But there absolutely, we have a section on that. We have books on that cover that. We have books on so many topics. Like, for example, condominium law. It has its whole own book because that's a whole different way of owning a property, and the rights and responsibilities of everyone are different than if you own a single family home. And again, tenant rights, it depends on, are you renting a room? Are you renting an apartment? Is that apartment in a giant complex, or is it in a small little rental that has only 3 units? The size of it matters. The laws are different for those things. So all of this stuff is very complex. One of the main things I tell people when they come to the library is you need to budget the time to do the reading. One of the main things that you pay an attorney for is to do this reading, because it is hours and hours and hours worth of reading, to completely cover a topic. I mean, it's like a full-time job to do often. The drunk driving book that we have, drunk driving law in New Jersey, it is enormous. It's easily 6 inches wide, and the book is thousands of pages. And it is a comprehensive, practical guide on drunk driving laws in New Jersey. Incredibly good source, incredibly great. We have a copy that circulates and one that stays on the shelf at all times. But at the same time, if I were going to read that book, I'm not a fast reader and I'm not a slow reader. That would take me probably easily 100 hours to cover that, to read that book. So when you're talking about any of these topics, be prepared. If you're going to represent yourself, you want to learn about these things, be prepared to put the time in.
Um, I think I'll answer this next question. It's do you conduct tours of the library? Not officially. I mean, we do not have scheduled tours that happen, but if you would like to come visit the library and learn more, you can just contact us. Let us know the date and time you would like to come visit, and then we would have one of our library staff um, be able to give you an overview of the library, take you around to the different areas, talk about the different collections and services that we offer. So that's something that we can do. We just ask that you let us know ahead of time so that we can make sure that we have somebody available for that service. Um, do you help with due process law?
We help you find information, okay, on any legal topic. We will do what we can to help you find information on that topic, but we will hand you a book, and we will, or, direct you to a database, or direct you to, a resource online. But we will not, when people say, do you help with, we do not say, this is what you do, this is what you don't do, you need this form, you need that form, nothing like that. That is, unfortunately, a lot of what people want to know about the law is legal advice. And so, you know, a lot of times you need a lawyer, and only a lawyer can help you to answer that question. One of the most common questions that I get here is, my attorney is not contacting me. What do I do? I want to file a grievance. Yeah, now I can't answer what you do. And honestly, the answer often is you have to hire another lawyer. So it can be it can be difficult, but yes, we will absolutely help you to determine what the due process laws are, and if we have a book on that, or a, you know, a database that does that, we'll try to get that information to you. But again, you have to read it and you have to interpret it. I can't tell you what it means. I can get, if you ask me, what does this mean? I have to give you a legal dictionary, and say, you know, and again, that this is, believe me, this is frustrating for librarians too. We are predisposed to want to give you the answer. And in the case of legal reference, medical reference, think of it, you know, tax reference questions, any of that kind of thing where the person who would provide the service for a fee has to have a special license. We're not going to answer those questions directly. We're only going to be able to help you find resources.
Alrighty, well, thank you so much, Cynthia, for explaining everything and doing the demonstrations, and thank you everybody for attending. Again, if you have any questions, always reach out to us. If we don't know the answer, we can point you in the right direction or other
Yeah.
areas to look. So, um, just want to say again, thank you, Cynthia. Everybody be safe, be well, and hopefully we'll see you soon.
Thank you, everyone, so much. This was really great. Thanks, Andrew. Mhm.